What's up, y'all? Sparta here. I want to do a comparison video between the LG. Let me actually switch these to make this easier. LG V20 versus LG V30. Now, I haven't really seen many videos on this on YouTube, probably because both of these phones cover a very specific niche in the smartphone world. That's content creator content creators, whether it be, video, whether it be photo, whether it be pretty much, and even like audio, whether it come to like music production and, and even just listening to music. The LG series has always been pretty much the go-to phone for a lot of content creators, specifically for those reasons. And it pretty much kicked off my channel as a whole with the LG V20. Now, a lot of people love the LG V20 for a lot of reasons. And I don't blame them for loving this phone for those reasons, because for those reasons I love them. I love this phone as well. I don't know why I keep stumbling over what I'm trying to say, but it's whatever. And a lot of people love the V30 for a lot of reasons as well, and a lot of them tend to be the same reasons that they loved the V20. So I've had the LG V20 over a year now. It would be pretty much a year and a month as far as I'm concerned. And a year and a few months as of right now. V30, it's been 3 months. What I want to say is that the differences that you'll see when you go from the LG V20 to LG V30 aren't just standard differences like, oh, build quality. Yeah, build quality is definitely different. Glass versus aircraft grade aluminum. Non-removable battery, removable battery. Yet this has a bigger battery and more efficient battery. But the drawback to that is you'll have to put it on the charger, whereas with the I was about to say V30, V20, you could just swap batteries out and even put a bigger battery in there and not have to worry about that. Both have crap selfie cameras. I'm going to just say that right now. While I don't personally care for selfie cameras, I will say that when it comes to video with the selfie cameras, it's actually really good. Like, a lot of people just focus on stills, but when it comes to the video, when it comes to video on the selfie cameras with both of these phones, it's comparable, and it actually is very good. Stabilization is nice. There is no OIS. The only real phone that had OIS within the selfie camera was the HTC 10. And I wish more companies would go on board with that. Even HTC, since they decided to take it out. Other than that, both have 16 megapixel main cameras, but the main difference between the wide angle cameras is that this one has a 13 megapixel wide angle lens. This one has an 8 megapixel wide angle lens. This is at f2.4 or 2.3. I can't remember. This is at f1.8. The 16 megapixel cameras are pretty much the same, other than that this has a f1.6 aperture, and it was the first phone to ever have a f1.6 aperture lens. Now Samsung's talking about with the S9 and stuff that they're going to have f1.5 apertures, which I am all for. I'm all for bigger apertures in phones for better low light performance. But when it comes to stills, a lot of people have said that the V series has never been amazing with the auto mode. And honestly, I'll agree. But from my personal experience, I wouldn't say it's like a night and day difference between the LG V30 and say the Note 8 or the LG V. The LG V20 suffers a bit, but it's not terrible. It's still good enough. Enough taking place. But what you will want to do with these phones is use the manual mode. These aren't for, these aren't for smartphone casuals that just want to use, the basic modes, right? They're for the people that want to tinker, that want to mess with every single setting, and that's what people need to realize. That's why I can't necessarily recommend the V series to someone like my girlfriend if she wants to use it for video, because I'm gonna tell her like it's great for video, but you actually have to mess with the settings. That's why I gave her the LG G6 because the LG G6 is great at auto, is good enough in auto mode, and for her personally is good. It's great, even better than her iPhone when it comes to video in auto mode. So that's all nice for her. But when it comes to these, both have the laser autofocus that LG pioneered since the LG G3. It is miles better on the V30. They didn't have it on the G6. They just had regular autofocus, but the autofocus on the G6 was good. It was actually fairly fast, and it locked on better than my S7 at the time. It stayed locked, and that's what I liked about it a lot. The V30 focuses fast and stays locked. V20, it focuses slower, but it stays locked as well, and that's what I like. Compared to my Note 8, which constantly decides, as you guys can probably see, it has a little bit of a refocusing effect because it keeps refocusing, trying to find where it wants to focus. And I know I can just tap and decide to have it do that, but it'll make other parts of images blurry, so I decide not to do that. Okay, so other than all that crap I just talked about, let me talk about the key differences you'll see in between going from the LG V20 to the LG V30. The main thing you will see is screen difference and overall, footprint of the device itself. This is a 6-inch OLED display. This is a 5.7-inch IPS LCD quantum display. Now, from the V10 to the V20, black levels are so much improved on here. You guys can see a little bit of light bleed, but compared to the V10, which I don't have because I gave to my dad, you don't see. The V10 had horrendous light bleed. Specifically the one that I got from my friend. Mine, I don't remember having that terrible of light bleed, but either way, it's whatever. Yeah, that's the one thing you'll see the difference is that they're both, well, this is a slightly higher pixel count of 2880 by 1440 due to the 18:9 aspect ratio, 16:9 aspect ratio, 2560 by 1440. So yeah, that's what I'm going to say there. Another thing you'll obviously feel is the difference between build quality. Now, I'll just come out and say that I prefer the LG V20's feel in the hand because I'll always prefer aluminum over glass. A lot of people say, oh, but glass is better, but I just don't agree because it's brittle. You have to put a case on it, and it just feels slimy after using it for so long. For some reason, the V30 doesn't really have that effect. The phone that does that the most for me is my Note 8. It's weird. Probably because of the curvature of the back on this. I like how this feels in the hand better than my Note 8 because the Note 8 is like this tall chocolate bar. This is more like it has a curvature to it that makes it more comfortable to hold. And it feels like a V series phone as well. As you guys can probably see, the dimension, the way the phones are designed, it has a similar curve around the edges and stuff like that. But you guys can see this is polycarbonate and this is all glass. This is stainless steel. And the main key difference that I prefer over the V20 over the V30 is the headphone jack placement. I prefer the headphone jack on the bottom with the USB-C port. That's just how I'm used to things. I've gotten used to it being on the top, so it's not terrible to me anymore, but I just prefer it to be on the bottom because that's just what I'm used to on an LG flagship, to be honest. But nonetheless, it's on there, and that's what matters to me most. Durability, both have mil standard 810G compliance as weather and drop resistance. Both have fared well in that regard as far as, me living in Minnesota. Battery, I'm going to just do a quick comparison between the Note 8 and this. Battery, since I carry those both with me at all times around times where it's super cold. The battery on this lasts very well when it comes to being outside in colder conditions. Colder conditions will drain your battery quicker. When I'm like in the freezer at work putting away the frozen freight that I have to break down, the V30 has no problem sticking to what percentage it was at, while my Note 8 drops at least like 2 percentage points. Now, keep in mind, I also use my Note 8 to listen to podcasts, so that might actually be another factor to it as well. But it doesn't affect it that much. The same can be said about my V20. I had the same thing when it came to my V20 and the G6. The G6 also was very good when it came to maintaining battery throughout the day and not draining drastically when it came to doing stuff like going in freezers and stuff like that at work or being in cold conditions. Both the V30, V20, G6, V30, they all are good at that. Next, I want to talk about the performance gain that you will also see when it comes to V20 versus V30. Snapdragon 820, 835. Both have 4 gigabytes of RAM, but you can feel the difference between how good the software melds with the hardware. The V20 is kind of showing its age, to be honest. I feel a little bit of not like mega lag, but it's like some stutters here and there. And it doesn't bother me, but I do indeed feel it. The V30, I don't feel it at all, really. And I don't ever really need to do stuff like reset my phone and stuff like that, because honestly, the V30 tends to keep its battery charge its performance very well. I also tend to use smart cleaning when I need to, so it'll make sure my phone isn't bogged down throughout the day. And even if I don't do that for like 3 days, I don't feel anything at all. And it feels very nice to use this phone day after day after day. Another thing you'll notice is battery gain. That's something you won't feel when you first get the phone, because it takes a bit to set in and get used to how you use the device and stuff like that. But 3,200 milliamp hour battery, 3,300 milliamp hour battery. You would think that wouldn't make much of a difference, but I don't know what kind of magic LG worked when it came to battery optimization on this phone. But this phone is it's great at battery management. It's very weird to come from this that was not that great at battery management. And this, I was probably able to get 3.5 hours of screen on time on here. I could get 5.5, damn near 6 on the V30. It's crazy. That may be chalked up to the display difference, but even then, with my Note 8, which also has an OLED display, albeit AMOLED, this does better than the Note 8 when it comes to screen on time overall as well. And that's just insane to me. And I keep the brighter always on display on. I do all of that stuff. Another key difference you'll obviously see is no second screen. That's something that you just won't see because they axed it in favor of the taller screen and doing the 18:9 aspect ratio. But what you get in return is still something that I consider to be a very good alternative, which is the floating bar, which basically gives you every single thing that you had with, save for the signature, with the V20 and the V10's always on secondary display. And that's something that I like a lot, that they kept that in mind when it came to the V series, because that would have been very hard. And you also get music controls here as well on the always on display. Sorry, my fingers are a bit greasy. You get music playback controls. You get your typical controls when you want to control your camera, capture plus, the screen capture, Wi-Fi, sound, Bluetooth, and flashlight. And it works seamlessly. You can also just double tap. You do it on both. It works faster on here. And it's just something that is very nice, in my opinion, that they've kept previous things that people love about the V series in mind and not just axing them all together. But speaking of the things that you will know about the V series, the one thing that they're known for are their cameras, right? So one thing you'll notice when you go into both of these phones is that due to their not being a secondary display, you get more stuff on the screen taking it up, and you don't get the opportunity to just be all like, I want to go into my manual camera mode. I want to go into auto mode and just do it like that. You got to go into your mode menu right here, and you get a plethora of different modes, and you just choose them right here. You see auto, manual, camera, manual, video mode. It's actually in the same layout as it is on the V20. So it's actually not too unfamiliar, but you just have to do an extra step to get to it. That's probably my one gripe, and probably why I don't use it as much, but it's still nice. And you get Cine Video, which is something you can't get on the V20 because the camera differences between these two are more than just, aperture range and stuff like that. And I'll go into detail in that in a minute. Okay, another thing, speaking of the cameras again, is the capabilities. This has an 8-bit color sensor, and it has a glass lens. So you get more clear images, and you don't get a lot of the halo effects that you would get on previous LG phones when it comes to taking pictures in low light and there being a sort of light in the background, like a street light and stuff like that. I don't take many of those pictures, so I can't show you guys. But you look at, coverage on Pocket Now and stuff like that, and Juan Carlos Bagnell did a really good representation of how the glass lens on the back of this phone works when it comes to that. What else? Same button layout. You get the volume up and down on the left, which I honestly miss them on the back. You get the power button / fingerprint sensor on the back, but you also get facial recognition on here, and you get voice recognition on here as well. Both work very well, and both are nice to use as well. I don't have it set up on here anymore. Any of them set up on here anymore because I had to factory reset my phone due to APK bullshit that I had to go through. But, it's whatever. And you could have all three, fingerprint sensor, facial recognition, and voice recognition set at the same time and still use them. Say for Samsung, you can't have facial recognition and iris sensing on at the same time, which makes sense, but still, I'm just bringing that up. I'm pretty sure through a software update, they can just release facial recognition on the V20. We'll see, though, if that'll ever happen. Audio, when it comes to audio, which is a staple of the LG V series as well, the V30 is better. Now, it's not leaps and bounds better, but I was just listening. I just did a quick comparison between these two, listening to, my typical hip hop, old school hip hop music and stuff like that. And what I can tell you is that the V30 does get slightly louder. Like, it's noticeable, but it's not like the V20 sounds like you can hear everything else in the background, because you can't. They're both very loud. The amps in these phones are quality and they're loud. But the V30 does get even louder, but not to the point where I can't listen to the V20. Because I can still listen to the V20 and enjoy it, just like I can still listen to the V10 and enjoy it. Whereas I no longer use my headphone jack on my Note 8. So I'm not too hurt if I decide to go with like an iPhone of any sort, iPhone 8, 10, or whatever, and it doesn't have a headphone jack. Or Sony phones that just so happen to be rumored to be removing the headphone jack as well. Their new flagships coming out. We'll see about that, though. If they do, it'll be very ironic, because they pretty much pioneered consumer audio. And I'm just not going to get into that right now, but here we go. What else? I want to talk about displays and the myriad of different issues that you may get between LCD and OLED. Both can get a certain kind of screen burn-in. It's more prevalent when it comes to OLED because there's no backlight. On here, you get the obvious, which is light bleed, as you guys can see here. You don't get it on OLED because there's no backlight, so you don't have to worry about that. LCD can get brighter, but OLED, especially this particular panel, gets brighter than this one does. I see a lot of ghosting now on my V20. Well, not a lot. It's like a minor amount of ghosting. It's not anything that is a deal breaker or makes me hate the phone more than I did when I first got it, but it's there. What else? Dead pixels is something you can get on LCD. On OLED, you don't get that, so you don't have to worry about that. You get screen burn-in on here as well. You can get screen uniformity, which is something I've seen a lot on my Note 8. I haven't really seen it on my V30, really. You get blue shifts. You can get color shifts on LCD as well. But on here, I do get a blue shift, but it's not something that's terrible. And it ultimately depends on the kind of content I'm looking at. If I'm looking at like my base wallpaper on my phone, which is a picture of my girlfriend, you can kind of see the blue shift happening right there. But it's not something that I am bothered by because I'm not always on my home screen. That's the same argument that people say, oh, you use a black background on your OLED display, it'll save battery. You're not always on your home screen, so that doesn't even matter. Unless you're just sitting there keeping your phone on your home screen the entire day, which you can't because they time out after 10 minutes. Whereas on this, you could set it to never time out, which is what I prefer. But 10 minutes is whatever. I can deal with that. I guess microphones as well. Both of these have very quality microphones. And honestly, you can't go wrong with either. If you want to record, whether it be an audio track of your voice or like music or anything like that, both of these phones are great for it. Obviously, I'm not a musician, but it's one of the few things LG advertised with the V20 is you can use it to like record a separate track for your audio and your music as well, and it's actually very nice. But as for that, I don't necessarily know what else I can cover other than to say a few things that I guess I don't know how to say this. Other than to say a few things that a lot of people criticize the devices about and what I don't necessarily see. Okay, with LG, they used to have boot loop issues. I think the V20 also has it, but I honestly haven't witnessed it. The only phones that have had boot loops for me is the G5, which was my very first G5 before I even set it up. So it didn't really bother me. I just took it back to the T-Mobile store and got a new one. And I didn't have an issue with that one. My G4, which honestly was 2 years old and it was using a Snapdragon 808. And for what I was using it for, it kind of made sense for it to boot loop and no longer work. So I'm not necessarily sad about that anymore as I was when I made the video about it. What else? I guess the user interface. The user interface on LG phones is like a double-edged sword. Some people like it, some people don't like it. A lot of people don't like it because they say it's too colorful. My argument to that is just download a different theme, which is what I've done. Or just use the darker themes that are on the phone itself. You could just download a theme. The theme I have on here on my V20 and that I've used since I think the G5 or V10, I don't remember, is called Black and White. And you can find it on the Play Store as well. Just look it up right there, literally in how it's spelled right there, and you'll find it. And they'll also give you recommendations for other themes as well. But I tend to go with the black and white theme. I think it was like $1.99. So it's not breaking the bank or anything like that. And it's a nice theme. So it's something that if you want to change the icons, you could just go with a different theme. What I miss about LG is just being able to change every single icon to your liking. And they no longer let that be a thing. I don't know why. But I do miss it as a feature. Another thing, I guess what people criticize the V30 for is no longer having a removable battery. I'm more criticizing for them going for this form factor, this glass on glass with a metal band form factor. It's something that I don't like. It's something that I'm not really a fan of. If they wanted to do it for, wireless charging, they could have went with other materials that are also premium and that also allow wireless charging. But that being said, I do love this color though. I've said it in my last video. This color, look at how that shines in the light. And obviously, since I have my window right to the right of me, it makes the effect that much greater. But it not having a removable battery makes a couple things possible. It makes it so that they can embed a bigger battery in there, which obviously they did, without making the phone thicker, which I wouldn't mind, honestly. A lot of people don't like thick phones, and I personally do. I don't really care. But as you guys can see, comparatively, they're not that... The V20 and V30, thickness-wise, are not that different. If the fucking note... This is what I'm talking about. It doesn't want to focus now. Alright, let me turn on the light real quick. Give me a second. Okay. Sorry about that, you guys. But as I was doing, let's see if this light will make it easier for it to focus. Whatever. As you guys can see, they're not that one. The V20 is not that much thicker than the V30, if at all. They're actually both really thin devices, and it's something that is very nice. I don't understand the whole removing components out of a device to make it thinner, thus having less battery in it, Apple. But that's something I'm not going to get into right now. Other than that, other than the screen issues, I've been playing a lot of people with the V30. I will say that the one thing I have noticed is that there's a little bit of light bleed outside of the edges of the V30. I also get this on my Note 8 to an even worse effect. But it's not something that bothers me because I typically have a case on. So it's not something that I'm like, why is that there? Plus, I don't see it in the daytime or in light, which is typically when I'm looking at my phone. So, yeah, that's not something that bothers me that much. Plus, when someone like when a phone like the Note 8 is also doing that for me, it's not something that I'm going to slag LG for. Because I noticed it at first when I first got my Note 8, even before I got my V30, and it was there. And I was like, what the fuck? This is a $1,000 phone. This is the quality I get. But you know, it's whatever. As far as both of these phones go, though, if you want a removable battery, great audio, phenomenal audio for a mobile device, and you want a more durable build, go with the V20. If you want all of that, but a less durable build, a better screen, in my opinion, not because it's OLED, but because it's just overall better, and just because it's just, there's something about the V30. It just has a slew of improvements that make it worth the upgrade for me, personally. And that's just something that a lot of people don't detail. They just say, oh, it's just, it's not that much of an improvement. When that's a lie, but you know, it's whatever. So let me know what you guys think of this. This is Sparta. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for the support. If you like this video, like it. If you disliked it, be sure to hit that dislike button. Share it with people that are interested in this video. Sorry for making it uber long, but I just wanted to detail everything that I wanted to say. Be sure to comment down below about what you think about this and which phone you prefer and why. And show time is over. As I said, this is Sparta. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for the support. Hope you guys have a wonderful Wednesday. Whatever time of day it is in your area, have a good one. If you're in any of the few states that have had snow issues, or even countries that have had snow issues, I hope you guys are safe. Believe me, in Minnesota, I had to deal with it too, so I understand and I feel you. All right, you guys have a good one. Thanks for the support as always. And be sure to subscribe if you're new and hit that notification icon so you can get notifications whenever I upload a new video. Okay, you guys have a good one.